Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we're going to do an updated 2022 NHL mock draft simulation with a complete simulation of the top 16 for the upcoming 2022 NHL draft. Now I haven't done one of these in a few months now and a lot has changed when it comes to the draft order and where these prospects might end up landing. There is a lot that has changed though since the last one I made, so I think it's time we do another one. Now we're going to do a lottery simulation, see who gets the first overall pick and simulate the entire top 16. But which teams get which players, who will get the first overall pick in this simulation, and what will the top 16 look like in the 2022 NHL draft? Watch till the end for the complete simulation and the complete predictions, and make sure that subscribe. But if you are new, 60% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey and if you like the draft, this channel is the place to be. Now I ended up going on tankathon.com, running one simulation, and this was the result I got. For the lottery winner, the first overall pick went to the Buffalo Sabres for the second straight season, and the second place team as well was the Columbus Blue Jackets, moving up. The rest of the teams though will stay in their positions or move back down. So at number 3 you have the Canadiens, the Coyotes, Kraken, Devils, Flyers, Senators, so on and so forth. But the Sabres and the Blue Jackets are the lucky winners and are the top 2 of the 2022 draft. But now going on to the first overall pick, the best case scenario for the Buffalo Sabres, getting Owen Power and winning the lottery last year. This year though, they'll win the lottery and select first overall Shane Wright. Now even though there is some doubters out there not having him first overall, I still think he's the best prospect in this draft, and for the Sabres it would be a great pick to have. Although they went for Owen Power last year on defense, they still could use maybe another center prospect in the pool, already having Dylan Cousins and a couple other solid picks there at the same time. But Shane Wright would really elevate that prospect pool and could be in the NHL next season. Even though I think he lacks a little bit of offensive pace, I still think this is a player that's amazing all around and has so many great qualities that you can't miss at the first spots. Then going on to number 2 and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who move up quite a bit of spots as well. This is one of the most interesting spots because this is where the draft really starts to open up. But at the second spot, I think the Blue Jackets will select USA centerman Logan Cooley. To me, I think this makes a lot of sense for them, even though they have drafted quite a bit of centers over the past couple of years, none that are bona fide number 1 caliber. Kent Johnson, I think, will likely be a first-line winger at the NHL level. I don't know if he'll quite round out into a center still at the same time. I still think there's some defensive issues to get around. At the same time, though, Logan Cooley, he's solid defensively and provides so much skating and offensive spark. I think the Blue Jackets will select him, even if they do still have quite a bit of centers in the pool. It's not a bad problem to have whatsoever, and he's a player that for the Blue Jackets fits what they're kind of going for, is maybe even just a better Cole Sillinger in what he brings. Now going on to the third overall pick, again another pick that kind of dictates the rest of the draft order. The third overall pick with the Montreal Canadiens. This is, in my opinion, another extremely interesting pick, but with Logan Cooley gone, I think they will select Matthew Savoie. To me, I think the Canadiens at this spot would likely select a center. Matthew Savoie, I think, makes a lot of sense for them, although again he's kind of like Kent Hughes in the way, or Kent Johnson in the way that he might not be a true number 1 center, might be a winger on the first line someday. I still think when it comes to Matthew Savoie, there's so much to love inside a top 3 pick that I think the Canadiens will end up going for him. That skill, that speed, that quickness in his play, I think is all at an elite level. There is some defensive issues, but for the Canadiens, I think they'll be just fine. Now going on to the 4th overall pick here, and the Arizona Coyotes. They're a team that could desperately use number 1 overall. Sadly though, no Shane Wright in their 5,000 seat stadium. That will have to wait for now. Going on to number 4 though, I think they will select Finnish sniper Joakim Kemell. To me, I think for Kemell, he makes a lot of sense in the Coyotes system. They're still a team that's rebuilding and is kind of the start of that as well. They picked Dylan Guenther last year, but I feel like at the same time, Kemell makes a lot of sense for them, even though they would be selecting another winger. I think the Coyotes are going to go for, in their opinion, the best player available, and even though I wouldn't select Kemell at this spot, he's a goal-scoring winger that they don't really have in their system. Guenther can definitely score goals, but Kemell is maybe a lot more efficient at that and will be more focused in that category for the Coyotes. But now rounding out the top 5 with the Seattle Kraken, a team that had his first draft last year. They're a team that is in need of a number 1 defenseman in the future, or at least a number 1 defensive prospect, and I think they will end up selecting Slovakian defenseman Simon Nemec. Now, in my opinion, Simon Nemec is the best defenseman available, and I think that's why the Kraken will select him, because in a lot of ways, I think they're smart with the NHL draft, especially their top picks last year, getting Beniers at number 2. But again, they could use a prime defensive prospect in that pool, and I think the Mets brings a lot of that quickness, that great skating, some great fundamental abilities. He's a good thinker of the game, and he's a guy that's extremely smart the higher he gets as well in his hockey career. He's been great in the Slovakian league, and I think for Seattle especially, to have that type of guy will be extremely valuable to them. Now going on to number 6 and the New Jersey Devils, another team that I kind of went back and forth on for my pick. They could maybe select another forward, but I feel like, again, still having the defensive issues they are having, I think they'll try to go for maybe a more defensive prospect, and I think that will be David Jiricek. Now, David Jiricek will be interesting in the Devils pool. He's a guy that's extremely smart, confident, and mature at his young age. Is a guy that I think has maybe more offensive upside than people give him credit for, but at the same time, I feel like the Devils will have a lot more pressure to still take a defenseman, even if they took Luke Hughes last year. He's certainly not a defensive defenseman by any means, Luke Hughes, and I feel like David Jiricek could maybe fill that role someday for the Devils. He'll take a lot of patience, but at the same time, I think the Devils are willing to wait. Oh, but man, going on to the 7th overall pick and the Philadelphia Flyers, not having a top defenseman available will definitely hurt to them, and they might reach for somebody, but I feel like having Juraj Slafkovsky available will just be too good to pass up. To me, I feel like he would fit a lot in the Flyers system. Again, they're a team that kind of wants to go best player available most of the time, and I feel like Juraj Slafkovsky is a great pick at number 7. A big body, strong physical presence, but that offensive upside is so crucial. He, again, kind of reminds me a little bit of Kaapo Kakko in his draft year, where he had almost all of the small little details of his game, as well as having the size, the speed, the quickness, and the skill. It was all a pretty complete package, and Slafkovsky, I think, is along that same line. I think might be better in the NHL, perhaps, than Kakko has been so far, but at the same time, I think Slafkovsky is going to do just fine in Philly. Now going on to number 8 and the Ottawa Senators, I've learned throughout these past couple of years to not doubt the Senators in taking big players, and at number 8, I think they'll run up to the stage to select Conor Geekie. Now, I wouldn't select Conor Geekie near this spot, but at the same time, he is a perfect Ottawa Senators pick. A big player that has some great skill, but isn't quite there yet. I think he's a player that, in terms of smarts, is definitely one of the most lacking and underwhelming players of the top 15. He's a player that doesn't really know how to use his size all too correctly, but the Senators are one of those teams that is trying to be as big as humanly possible, and the skill that Conor Geekie does provide, I think will be enough for the Sens to end up taking him this high. Now going on to number 9, and once again the Columbus Blue Jackets. This pick, of course, being related to the Seth Jones trade. The Blackhawks traded their first in that one, and I think for the Blue Jackets, after getting a player like Logan Cooley at number 2, I think they'll look more so at a winger here at this spot, and I feel like they'll end up selecting Russian winger Ivan Miroschnichenko. Now, Miroschnichenko is one of the most controversial players of this draft. He's a guy that I've seen outside of the first round, but Bob McKenzie still has him 6th on his board, and I feel like Columbus will be one of those teams that is a lot more high on him than others. They're not afraid to take Russian players. They've done it in the past with Shinikov, who was picked way higher than a lot of people projected. With Miroschnichenko, though, he's a player that has skill, but lacks a little bit of intensity, but I still think has talent at the NHL level that the Blue Jackets will want to unlock. But rounding out the top 10 with the New York Islanders at the 10th spot, this is another fascinating pick, and I feel like for the Islanders at this spot, they'll go for a pretty smart pick considering they almost have to. This could be the start of maybe a retool for them, perhaps, considering how bad this season has gone for them. At number 10, though, I think they're going to go for an amazing pick and select Brad Lambert. I really do think Brad Lambert's going to be around this spot, and if he isn't selected by the Islanders, he'll be selected by the Red Wings, no doubt, in my opinion. But I feel like for the Islanders, he's almost a perfect player for them. They obviously went for Radu last season. They aren't afraid to go for the Liga for some of their top picks. And I feel like Brad Lambert is another guy just like Radu who lost confidence throughout this year, but in terms of the skill, in terms of the speed that he brings, has so much potential at the NHL level that if you can unlock it, you get a steal of a pick. And I feel like for Brad Lambert, that's along the same lines. I see Brad Lambert being much better than Radu, but at the same time, I feel like he's an Islanders pick through and through. Now going on to number 11. This is another pick that is extremely interesting to me. Obviously with Steve Yzerman, he's had some great picks in the past, and at number 11, I feel like the Detroit Red Wings will end up selecting American Frank Nazar. Now, Frank Nazar could honestly go higher by the time the draft ends up happening. He's a guy that's rapidly on the list of top 10s throughout the league. I feel like though Frank Nazar, he might slip a little bit due to his size, but the Red Wings will be able to snatch him up pretty thoroughly at number 11. He's a guy that has great intensity to his game, fantastic consistency, but his raw fundamentals with skating and puck movement I think are fantastic. This is a player though that Steve Yzerman would likely know pretty well, and I feel like the Red Wings are going to have a great pick at this spot. Now going on to number 12 and the Vancouver Canucks. This is likely not going to be their only first round pick of this upcoming draft, and I feel like for the Canucks at number 12, they'll likely go the Russian route once again and select Danily Yurov. Now, the big thing for me is that Yurov kind of in the same situation a little bit as maybe Vasily Podkolzin in his draft year, where he wasn't getting as much time as you'd really expect, especially in the KHL, but is a player that in terms of raw talent still has a lot of it, but is a big risk. Again, he hasn't been playing that much in the KHL, not a fantastic sample size, but I feel like when it comes to Yurov, he's efficient enough, he has enough talent where I feel like the Canucks would select him inside the top 12. Certainly though, I think a top 6 winger of the future, the Canucks could definitely use in that prospect pool. But now we're going to move on to number 13, and the 13th overall pick with the San Jose Sharks. I feel like at this spot, they'll likely go for a defenseman, and I think they'll go for offensive defenseman Pavel Mintyukov, defenseman for the Saginaw Spirit, who's been a pretty fast riser really over the past month. He's a guy that I've watched quite a bit more over the past couple weeks, and I've enjoyed his flurry of offensive spirit. He's a guy that loves to jump and play, has an exceptional shot on him, and is a guy that knows where to be offensively. He can command a blue line, he can play great on the power play, it just has a great sense of the game offensively. Although there is still some to work on defensively, especially when it comes to size, at the same time, I feel like there's enough that you can round it out eventually and still be a productive offensive defenseman at the NHL level, which I think the Sharks will definitely appreciate. Now going on to number 14, I'm going to move on to one of the more underrated players in the draft, in my opinion. At number 14, the Winnipeg Jets will select Cutter Gauthier. Now, I think this is a pretty fantastic pick for the Winnipeg Jets. Again, another guy that kind of goes underrated in the USDP. He's a guy that I just absolutely love. His tools, his combination of talent, I think is really sublime. He's consistent, he's effective, he's really just a player that knows what to do at all times, makes efficient passes, doesn't really do too many things too fancy, but at the same time knows what to do and can play in an NHL system. I think he's going to be a coach's favorite and a guy the Jets will love going forward. Now going on to number 15, I'm going to move on to my favorite team in the Dallas Stars. Another team that's kind of in a weird position. They've drafted a lot of best player available really over the past couple of years. I think that will continue, and I think they'll go for Swedish forward Noah Östlund. Now to me, Noah Östlund is pretty solid at this spot at number 14, or number 15 I should say, and I feel like he's a guy that I just really like watching. He's efficient, he's fun, he's chaotic, but at the same time, if you can rein him in, or maybe even just let him go if you really want to, he could be a player that could be really solid, really quick, and be a good part of a middle six going forward, and especially for the Stars, I think they'll be very, very good for them. Now going to number 16, the last place spot in the simulation. This to me was a pretty easy one. The Anaheim Ducks, I think, will select a defenseman, and I think they'll go from the USDP in Ryan Chesley. Now, Ryan Chesley is another one that's kind of all over the place. Some people love him, some people hate him. To me, I'm kind of in the middle. I see some solid tools there, not a lot that's extremely projectable, but I think he will be a solid bottom 6 defenseman in the NHL someday. Bottom pairing guy that can be efficient, be solid, get some strong physical play. Nothing that's insane or anything, but I think for the Ducks, he's a guy that will be solid. And again, for that defensive prospect pool, they don't really have much, especially with Jamie Drysdale being a graduate now, and I feel like they'll want to kind of resupply that a little bit. Ryan Chesley is a good option, though, on that blue line, and will be solid for them in the future, no doubt. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below what you guys think about my simulation. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Who do you think your favorite team will select in this upcoming draft? Let me know your thoughts. Make sure you share this video with your friends, get the draft content out there, and click this card for all of my 2022 draft content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.